Hello, everybody. My name is Maureen Haan. I am the President and CEO of the Canadian Council on Rehabilitation and Work, CCRW. I'm also a board member for CASE. I've been asked to come here to speak to you today about the business case for hiring people with disabilities. I understand that there have been some questions that have been posed to CASE, and I want to unpack those questions and I want to explore them with you because I think that a lot of the questions that have been asked are based in what I'm going to call the old business case of hiring people with disabilities. We know what the old business case is, that people with disabilities have a low turnover rate for employment. They stay with agencies for a long time. That people with disabilities have a lower workplace accident rate, and that people with disabilities are always at work. You can depend on them. But I'm going to take a different angle with those pieces and try to think about it in a different way. Why is it that there's low turnover? Is it because they're afraid to leave their jobs? Is it because they are afraid they're not going to get another job? Is it because they're stuck because they have benefits that pay for very, very expensive medication at their current job? And workplace accidents, are they afraid to report because they're afraid that that's going to lead to dismissal? Always at work, again, are they afraid of getting fired? So instead of looking at those old business case rationales for hiring people with disabilities, I'd really like to turn it around and think about innovation, think about purchasing power, think about labor force availability, and think about talent. And I'm going to unpack all those four areas for you now. Innovation. A person with a disability wakes up every day thinking about being innovative. What are they going to do if the elevator button doesn't work? How are they going to navigate a noisy street? Knowing where their backup batteries for their hearing aids are. Lived experience has taught people with disabilities how to ensure that they achieve because of their disability, not in spite of it. Purchasing power. Various studies have been done on the value of purchasing power of people with disabilities. One said over $1 trillion globally in disposable income. And in Canada, some studies have said approximately $25 billion annually. That's a lot of money, and I'm going to expand on that just a little bit. If a restaurant owner has a restaurant without a ramp in front of it, and I have a friend that I'm going to go and dine with who uses a mobility aid, we're not going to go to that restaurant. So that restaurateur has now lost not just one customer, but two. The next time I'm thinking about going out, I probably will remember that that restaurant didn't have a ramp and wasn't accessible to everybody that is important to me. So I might not decide to go there again with my able-bodied friends or my able-bodied family. Projections from Statistics Canada show labor force growth dwindling to zero by 2026. And what does that mean? We're just not populating ourselves. Businesses with that fact alone know that they have to look at their business differently, looking at other non-traditional labor markets and switching their cultures to be inclusive. And of course, the last part is talent. above all else, this is what employers are looking for. And talent is out there. This is your job to do. You know how to do that because you know how to unpack that talent to do that right match. As we understand these points, we see there isn't a business case, but there is a reason why the talent in front of you should be working. As service providers, you need to figure that out, what that talent is. And when working as a service provider, you must understand the value system of the business that you are approaching. For example, Canadian Tire. Canadian Tire's slogan is Canada's store. In order to be Canada's store, we must make sure that Canadian Tire has 22% of the population represented, both in employment and as customers. That inclusive way of thinking as a business will help you as a service provider make that match work. The second thing is that you must understand the talent that business is looking for. Is the degree in business really needed? What are the outcomes of the job? And does the person that you're working with have those skills to get that outcome done? In the third area, you have to understand as well that they're not your clients or your employers or your businesses. How you encourage that sense of community with other service providers is pivotal. You don't have all of the talent in your back pocket. Nobody does. So making sure that we do that shared approach, an integrated approach with business, is very, very critical. The first question that I'd like to talk about is if an employer says to you, well, I don't have any suitable openings. That's a really good point. The interesting word here is the word suitable. It means that the employer is thinking that the person that you've got in front of them doesn't have the ability, doesn't have the skills for the job opening that's there. I think that if you've done your homework and you know the mission or the value of the company that you're approaching, you will be able to talk to them about how to accommodate or adjust for the job seeker that you're working with. And if they really aren't hiring at the moment, consider telling them about CASE's mentorability program as a way for them to get to know the talents of people with disabilities. The next question is, I can't discipline or fire a person with a disability. And that's correct if focusing on disability. But when you've established that you have access to a labor market of job seekers with talent and not just disability, this question does become moot, because they're not going to be firing or disciplining because of disability. They'll be firing or disciplining, hopefully promoting and enhancing workers with disabilities and the talent of workers with disabilities. Another question I've been asked to unpack is, I don't work with agencies. And that's a tougher one because that's a much softer sell. You really need to know what your agency can bring to the table. But this statement isn't saying that they don't work with people with disabilities. It's saying that they don't work with agencies. So taking a backseat approach to working with the job seeker to be more autonomous in their application is probably a good idea in this situation. So they're not working with you. So they are employing a person with a disability. The next question I'd like to talk with you about is when an employer or a business says to you, I don't know where to start. But they do know where to start because they're already talking to you. And again, you need to know what your agency can offer and also what other community organizations in your area offer. And remember, CASE can support you in your work with, again, the CASE Mentorability Project or the CASE HR Inclusive Policy Toolkit. And I'm going to leave you with this today. At CCRW, we don't believe in pity hires. We use wage subsidies as an incentive, but not as leverage. And we believe that at some point in our lives, we will all experience disability in one form or another. So normalizing over 22% of the population in Canada that identifies as a person with a disability is critical for ongoing inclusivity in our country. Good luck with this. You got it. You can do this.